There are new games coming out every week, but somehow modern games keep giving us fewer and fewer reasons to actually buy them. Every new release wants $70 and half your storage space, yet half the time it doesn't even work at launch. Meanwhile, our backlogs are full of games we already own, games that are finished, proven to be good, and probably more worth our time than whatever $70 slop just released this week. And these days, buying a game early almost feels like paying full price for the worst version of it. Games launch broken, more content gets added later, and by the time the game is actually in a good state, it's usually cheaper anyway, so why buy it early? Honestly, this feels like the perfect time to just kick back, relax, play some older games, and finally get through that backlog that's been sitting there for years. And maybe the funniest part is that we used to treat our backlogs like some kind of failure, like owning 50 games you never played was something to feel guilty about. But now, that backlog is starting to look pretty damn valuable. You already paid for those games, most of them are fully patched, and you can actually see whether they were worth playing once the launch hype disappeared. There's no pre-order nonsense and no waiting 6 months for the developers to finish the game you already paid for. You can just pick something, install it and play. Meanwhile, buying a brand new game feels more and more like gambling. Maybe you get something great, or maybe you just paid $70 to become unpaid beta tester or whatever. And I think that's the real advantage of having a backlog right now. It's not that older games came from some perfect era where every game was amazing. Plenty of them had their own bullshit too. The difference is that time has already exposed all of it. You know which games got fixed, which ones were abandoned, and which ones were actually worth playing. When you buy a brand new game, you're usually paying the highest possible price while knowing the least about what you're actually getting. With an older game, most of that uncertainty is already gone. The reviews have settled, the marketing has faded away, and you can judge the game for what it actually became. You're choosing from games that already had the chance to prove themselves. And this is where modern gaming has completely lost me. Every new release is marketed like you absolutely need to be there on day one, as if missing launch week means you somehow missed the entire game. But then you buy it early, deal with the worst performance, and get least amount of content just so you can be part of the conversation before the internet moves on 2 weeks later. So, what exactly was the reward for buying it early? You paid full price for a worst product so you can talk about it online for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, you already have 50 other games waiting for you. We don't have shortage of games. We have shortage of reasons to buy new ones. Of course, that doesn't mean every new game is bad or nobody should ever buy a game at launch. Sometimes a game comes out, works properly, and is genuinely worth paying full price for. But being new isn't a selling point by itself anymore. A game still has to prove that it deserves your time, especially when it's competing against an entire library of games you already own. And honestly, the price isn't even the biggest problem anymore. $70 obviously matters, but wasting 20 hours on a game you don't enjoy is even worse. Money comes back, your free time doesn't. And when you already have games sitting in your library that you wanted to play for years, it becomes really difficult to justify spending your limited time forcing yourself through some mediocre new release just because everyone is talking about it. I would rather finally play a game I've been curious about for 5 years than spend my entire weekend trying to convince myself that the newest release gets good after the first 15 hours. A lot of new games aren't even selling you the game that exists today. They're selling you the version on the roadmap, the version where the performance is fixed, the missing content has been added, and the developers have finally figured out what the end game is supposed to be. And apparently, we're supposed to pay full price now based on a promise that everything will eventually be worth it. But I'm tired of buying promises. If the game becomes amazing later, great, I'll buy it later, probably for half the price. That's what having a backlog changes. There's no real pressure to gamble on every new release because you're never actually out of things to play. And I think the gaming industry hates that. Everything is marketed with this fake urgency. Pre-order now, play on day one. Buy the deluxe edition so you can start 3 days early. But 3 days early for what? So you can discover the bugs before everyone else. Games don't expire just because you didn't play them during the launch week. If something is genuinely great, it will still be great 6 months from now. And by then, you'll have much clearer idea of whether it actually deserves your time. And no, this isn't me pretending every old game is secretly a masterpiece. Some games are sitting untouched in our libraries for a reason. I bought plenty of games during Steam sales that I will probably never even install, but that's kind of the point. We already have so many options that a new release can't just exist and expect $70 anymore. It needs to give us real reason to choose it over everything else. Because right now, when I look at the broken new release and then look at the dozens of finished games already sitting in my library, that decision is becoming incredibly easy. Maybe I'll buy the new game in a year when it's cheaper and actually finished, or maybe I'll finally play one of the games I already paid for. Either way, I'm done paying full price for the privilege of getting the worst version of the game. Anyways, subscribe and I love you. Bye!